Want entertainment designed just for you? Then check out customizable streaming TV from Xfinity. It makes your life simple, easy, awesome.
Xfinity gives you customizable streaming TV options. Enjoy the most free shows anywhere on any device, and even access your streaming apps right on your TV with X1. Go to Xfinity.com, call 1-800-XFINITY, or visit a store today to learn more. Restrictions apply.
Aloha and welcome to Aquarium Radio on aquariumradio.com. And I am your host, Janet Lessin, with my co-host, Karen Christine Patrick. And today we interview experiencer Michael Davis. And this is an episode of Experiencers Network. And Michael Davis is from Marin, Sonoma Counties, California, and is the author of the book Falling Sky. And Falling Sky covers years of Michael's alien abduction experiences, which began happening at age 4.5, and he still has contact to this day. Mike was 4.5 when his first encounter began with aliens. He didn't know exactly what he had seen. He was certain that he had witnessed something out of this world, but he realized that no one would believe him, so he decided to just forget about it. And little did he know how this experience would haunt him later on in life. As Mike aged and reached his teens, the aliens continued their visits many times, leaving a visible presence on him as he grew into a young adult. 16 years had passed since his first visit, and then Mike was then living on a small farm with his wife and daughter in Petaluma, California, and his life changed abruptly when the aliens returned and continually repeated the abductions, and he began learning the true reasons behind these abductions. Oh, can't wait to hear that. Mike and his family are an illegitimate product of the Holy Roman Empire or the House of Habsburg, probably related to Mike. His great-great-grandmother, Anna, was a Jewish chambermaid to the royal family when Crown Prince Rudolph got her pregnant in 1881, then sent her to Hays, Kansas, and paid Michael Goss, G-A-U-S-S, a stipend for her and the unborn baby's accommodation. And this is the family lineage which made not only Mike but his two brothers and his mother subjects of alien contact. And we're going to learn a lot more about that. Oh, goodness, which one's Karen? Karen, you're 505, correct?
Yes, I am. That's me.
There, you're live. Karen, welcome. What would you like to say before we go on Mike?
Then I had a very magical day where I live in New Mexico. I got to go out on the desert and look at the beautiful mountains and had a nature day today, and that felt pretty good. So you guys get out in nature once in a while. It won't bite.
Oh, excellent. And I have two numbers here. This is Michael. Anything else you want to say before we bring on Michael Davis?
Oh, no, we chatted a bit before the show. I'm really excited for the interview. This is going to be awesome, and this is Experiencers Network, so we're talking about experiences. So great.
Okay, wonderful. Mike.
Hey, how are you doing?
Hi, welcome to the show. Would you prefer Mike or Michael?
You know, either one works. Doesn't matter to me, Mike, Michael. I get called a lot of things.
Okay, and there's somebody calling in from 530. Is that somebody that you know, or is that just somebody that's tuning into our show?
I don't think it's us. No, we're from 707.
Okay, 530. We're going to talk to Mike for a while, and then we will stick you on later to see if you have a question for Mike. But in the meanwhile, we're going to get his background and his story for a while. So we'd like to hear what you have to tell our listeners about your experiences. And after about 10 or 15 minutes, if you could pause and then ask us if we have any feedback or questions, that would be great. It's really good to mix up the voices in these shows. It makes it interesting for our listeners. So go ahead, Mike, take it away and tell us about this incredible life that you've been leading.
my experiences, or first memories of my experiences begin in my earliest ages of 4.5 years old back in 1965. It's a very long and in-depth story. I don't know if I'll be able to get through it all on this show, to be honest. It's so in-depth. But I'm going to try to cover some brief territory with people so they can see where I've been. In 1965, we lived in Lucas Valley, California, my parents, my brothers and sister, and I, and we lived in an Eichler home, and the center Eichler home had an enclosed area within inside the house, and the roof was open, though, so you could sleep out during the summertime. Well, it was like around May of 1965, and my brothers and I were sleeping out there looking at stars at night. And anyway, we fall asleep, and I hear the crickets silence, and it's when they're asleep, and it's wee hours in the morning. All I remember is the cricket silence, and I wake up looking for a cat or something on the roof or whatever, being a little kid. That's what I remember. And I didn't see anything, so I lay back down, and I roll over to my side, and I remember rolling over to my side, and I just got a weird feeling. I opened my eyes, and there were 3 little hooded beings standing next to my cot, or chase lounge that I was sleeping in my sleeping bag. And I looked at them. They were probably somewhere. They weren't the average grays that I see later in life, but they were very short little grays. Like we're talking. I mean, they were at face level with me, and I'm laying on a chase lounge. So if anybody knows how far the chase lounge is off the ground, with these little beings there, and the face being equal to mine as a child at 4.5 years old. It's pretty short. We're talking maybe 2 feet, 2.5 feet, if that, and they had robes, black robes, and they had hoods over their heads. And like collectively, they didn't say, but I'm getting this message. I say, who are you? What do you want? And I remember wetting my sleeping bag. I was scared to death. And they said, we're your parents. I said, you're not my parents. My parents are in the house. And they said, no, those are your people who watch you here in this world. But we're your guardians. So I'm like, okay, and they said, we're taking you with us, and we'll bring you back later. And I remember passing out. That's the last thing I remember. That I remember waking up in my bed, my couch, or the chase lounge, wet, and going in the house. And my dad being upset that I wetted. And when I asked him who were the 3 men that came into the atrium last night, he goes, "What men?" And I go, well, there was 3 little men. He goes, who? What did they look like? And I said, I don't know. They're just little short guys. They came in. They had hoods over their heads. He goes, oh, my God, you're not sleeping out there again. So that was that. We really weren't. We weren't allowed to sleep out in that atrium again after that. Now, I want you to know that my dad was also Air Force Reserves at one point in his life. So he's probably he's had some weird – he's also experienced some weird things in his life. But oddly enough, it's from a different side of what I'm speaking of. But anyway, that is that event. I'm going to talk to you about one other event, then I'm going to take a pause here, and then I'll take questions because I should be right about there. Okay, and so anyway, a little later on that year, we're talking around November that same year, I used to have a tree fort in my backyard that overlooked the school where I went to, which was Lucas Valley Elementary School, and our backyard was actually the playground of the school and the field where the kids played ball. In my tree fort, I just started kindergarten, and I went out to sit in my tree fort with my dog that I hoisted up in the tree. I had a little basket, and I'd watch the kids play sports out in the field. And with that, I get done watching them. I go in the house to watch cartoons, and the Eichler home had glass windows all across the back of it. And my mom says to me, she says, where were you? I said, I was up in my tree fort. And she says, you weren't up in your tree fort, Michael. She says, you were not up in that tree fort. She says, you jumped that fence and went over to the school to play. I said, I did not. And I really did. I did not jump that fence, and I did not go over to that field to play. But she knew that I wasn't there. She said that she went out to the yard looking for me in the yard. I was nowhere around. The dog was stuck up in the tree with the basket and the rope there in the tree, and she couldn't get him down, and she was just furious, and I got punished for it. And I'm thinking, why didn't she believe me? So I'm going to stop there. That's the first introduction that I had with these basic beings, okay? The first time I visually see them. The second time, apparently I'm not seeing them, but I'm missing. My mom's looking for me, and I know the truth. I never went over to that school, and I got punished for something I never did. So I'll stop there.
So let me just back up. I'm sorry, I missed a couple things. Oh, so you were just like 4.5 when this was the 3 men at the age 4.5?
Yes, 4.5, 1965.
1965, and you were 4.5. Okay. You were born 1960, right? Okay. And then what part of the world was this in again? Where were you?
This was in
living in
California. It was actually Marin County or Lucas Valley, California. Literally, the place. Here's what I've always, when I think back on the experience to this day, and there's an irony to this. This has happened in 1965, but the odd thing is, George Lucas used to live over the hills from us, 7 miles by crow flight of Star Wars. And the weird thing is that. And the weird thing is, the Lucas Valley was never named after him, but he moved into there later. And the odd thing is, I was seeing what I consider, when I think back on it after seeing the first Star Wars and things like that, when I was a child, I was actually seeing what almost like a Jedi, except it was gray and different than the Jedi with the hooded heads back before Jedis even exist, because Star Wars didn't come out until, 75? So we're talking 1965. So I'm wondering what maybe...
So what were they called? The little AWOCs, right? Because they have the hoods, right?
Well,
these are little teeny tiny.
Little Jedi, like Yoda had the hood too, if you remember right, too.
Right, Yoda had the hood. So maybe Lucas was influenced by this.
I don't know.
And you're right.
I'm not going to say
part
that.
of the world, and I've Petaluma and Marin several times, so I'm very familiar with part of the world you're talking about. It's beautiful there, yes. So,
nice.
And you still live there, or have you moved?
No. When I was 8 years old, we left Marin County and moved to Petaluma, California, up in Sonoma County, and they just built a new subdivision up there. And my sister moved in next door to us, and to a house where she just got married, and we lived in a house there. And anyway, my sister wound up going to get property out I Street in Petaluma, and my parents were left on that block there. We kind of went back and forth, back to Santa Benicia and then back up to Petaluma. And when my sister moved, we moved into her house, and then my grandmother wanted to move down from Washington. And, my mom said, we can't all live in this house, so they bought a farm. I'm not going to give an exact location where it was, but they bought a farm way out in west rural Petaluma, and there had 2 big barns on the farm, and I was just a young boy, and at that age, I was 13 years old when we wound up moving to 12, 13, when I wound up moving to that farm out in the country. And that's when this activity really started getting a little more intense. I started seeing orbs, spheres. I had a dark room in a barn there, and it was getting weird out there. I'm going to be honest, my dad wasn't the nicest man, and he used to beat me when I was a kid. And so my grandmother said she couldn't take living with him anymore, so she was getting her own place. My mom was working nights, and she says, what I want you to do is build a dark room inside of that barn out there. She says, you stay out there at night. She says, stay away from him. So she did. She paid for the stuff to build this dark room, and it was located in the middle of the barn. And anyway, the first experience when she was living out there, she says to me, she says, you guys want apple pie, blackberry pie? She says, go pick some blackberries. And this was 1973, and we were all still living there. And while we're picking blackberries out by the back behind the barn, I'm standing there, and I've got my bucket with berries going in. My mom's a little ways off. My brother's a ways off. I look off to the barn window, a huge barn window where they used to load hay into the upper part of the barn. And I see in there an orange glowing ball it looks about the size of a basketball, but glowing. And it just comes floating out the window. And with that, it comes around the side and it just floats in right next to me. And it's sitting there, it's like translucent. And I can see a face inside of this ball as a kid. And I'm picking these berries, and it's like looking at me, and I'm looking at it, and I'm like, what the heck? And it's like sitting there, and it's like watching me do this. And I go, Mom, come here, quick, come here. She goes, what? I said, come here. She said, I want to pick these berries. So she just flies over anyway. And when she gets over there, I look, the ball all of a sudden shrinks down to the size of even smaller than a dime, and just disappears in the bushes. She goes, what? I said, there was just a ball with his face in it. It was weird. This is before balloons with faces, I believe, even existed, because I don't recall ever seeing a clear ball like that glowing with a face in it. And she goes, where? I said, it just disappeared into the blackberry bushes, and she's looking for it. She can't find it. She said, there's nothing there. I said, yeah, there's a ball. It just went in there. It shrunk down and went in there. And she goes, oh, come on, Michael. Just get the blackberries picked. There's nothing there. So this is the second time that she doesn't believe me. When I'm telling her, first it's the tree fort. I was in the tree fort. She's seeing me gone, and I was there. Then now the blackberry disappeared. The ball disappears into the blackberry bushes, and she thinks I'm making up things. Then shortly thereafter, in 1973 also, my dad says to me and my brother Rich, he says, I need you guys to go out into the yard. He says, and cut those branches off that pear tree. They're driving me nuts. It's blocking the sun from coming in the house. And I said, are you sure you really want to cut the branches of the pear tree? We won't get any fruit anymore if you do that. He says, just cut them. I'm sick of this making the house dark. So he says, I got this stuff on the porch. He says, go get your ladder or whatever. And he says, go cut them. So I go out to the pear tree, and my brother and I, and we grab the stuff to cut it. And as he goes to, I'm holding the ladder for him. As he goes to climb up in the tree, all of a sudden this little orange orb appears in the tree, probably about the size of a tennis ball, I'm guessing, maybe even a softball, probably a little bigger, about the size of a softball. Once again, glowing. It's got a face in it, orange. And with this time, as he's up there, right before he cuts the branch, this thing just starts going vibrating really fast. And Rich goes, just get out of my way, and jumps down. My brother Rich jumps down. He says, that's weird. He says, let's go in. So I go in. We go in. We tell Dad what we just saw in the parrot. He said, oh, come on, for crying out loud. He goes, what? Did you guys, you see it? Just come out here with me. So he goes out there, and we go to that tree, and the orb isn't there. He climbs that ladder, and he starts just whacking the branches. Clear him out to the trailer. Put him in there. I'll take him to the dumps tomorrow. And as we're doing it, he climbs the ladder, and all of a sudden his whole ladder just starts violently shaking, and he couldn't control it. He says, quick, grab the ladder, I'm going to fall. So it's like these beings, here we are, blackberry bushes, pear tree, they seem to have some sort of attraction toward fruit and nature and not wanting things cut and taken, but they didn't seem to mind the blackberry, the fruit taken off of there, but the branches being cut from the tree, they minded, and they really didn't want a ton out there on the property. So my dad just whacked him down anyway. He got out of the ladder, and he just started whacking him down. Then very shortly after, this is 1974, my brother and I are walking to the school bus stop up on the hill, and which is probably about a block and a half away, and maybe a block and a half, yeah. And as my dad tells us to get to the bus 10 minutes early. He says, if you miss that bus, he says, you're in trouble. Your butt's mine, like that. And so we always made sure we were at least 10, 15 minutes early to that bus stop. This particular morning, it was a spring morning, 1974, and I remember we left the house, we started walking up the hill, and as we started walking up the hill, we looked at the driveway just up the road just a bit, and out of the driveway comes two, once again, basketball-sized glowing orbs with faces in them. They just come hovering across the road, and my brother, they first come straight to me. My brother's ahead of me. They come to me, and I just stop for a second. They just do like a pattern in my face, like they're scanning me of some sort, going. I just looked at them mesmerized, and with that they take off up the road, and then they do the same. I watch them do the same thing to my brother, and he waves his hands at him like, go away, like shoo him away like flies. And as soon as they shoo off, they go flying up the hill and shoot straight up into the sky. And with that, the bus comes over the hill. Now, mind you, the bus is just now coming over the hill, and we should be 10 minutes early to that bus, and we're just arriving to the stop, well, right on time. So there's probably about a good 8 minutes, 7 minutes missing there, because it only honestly took about 2 minutes to walk up to that bus stop, 2.5 minutes, 3 minutes. We're kids, we're fast. And so there's probably about 8 minutes, I'm guessing, missing in that experience. Got on the bus. I asked my friend Brett, I'll say his name here, but I said Bert in the book, but his name is Brett. I asked him, I said, Brett, did you see those? He goes, see what, Mike? I go, there's two weird balls, floating balls. He goes, they were headlights. I said, they were red. He says, all right, then they're taillights. I said, how could taillights be coming toward the bus? He goes, they were taillights, Mike. I'm telling you, that's what they were. And I said, no, they weren't. And I said, Rich, what was that? He says, I don't know. I don't want to discuss it. It's just weird. So we just kind of let it go at that on the bus. I mean, kids were talking about it back and forth, and none of us really talked too much about it, but you could hear people whispering about it. Then right after that experience, my dad comes home from work one night. It was wintertime, and my mom was at work, and I was in the house alone. My brother wasn't around too much, so I was in the house alone out there in the middle of the sticks watching TV, cartoons, and my dad comes in, and it's dark, and he says, Mike, the weirdest thing just happened to me. And I go, what? And he goes, I was coming over the hill on my way home from work, he says, and I was driving down, and I look out on our property there. He said, and I see two taillights of cars out there, of a car out there. And I go, taillights of a car? I said, how could a car get out there? I said, you have all the gates locked up, don't you? I said, there's no way a car could get out there. He goes, yeah, I know. And I said, well, then you're seeing things. He says, yeah, that's just weird. He says, and the weirdest thing is there was no car attached to the lights. There were just two car taillights. So I immediately knew what he was seeing but he'd given me a bad time about things before. So he says, what do you think they were? And I said, I think your vision's going. To be honest, Dad, I think you're losing it. You need to get some glasses. So I turned it around on him. I'm going to stop there. Then we'll go forward to more.
Hey, Karen, do you have any comments or feedback or questions?
Oh, my gosh, that was some great stories. You and I have crisscross time location things because some of my experiences start when I'm in California through the California school programs that they were trying to recruit psychic kids in about the same era. And in the early 70s, rather than move to another place in California, we ended up living in Oregon and out in the rural areas. So lots of weird stuff that happened when to us. So I feel a real, kinship there. I do have a question. Did you have any involvement in the public schools that was strange at all? Because right where you're talking about some of that, like the Bay Area or parts of California, different parts of California, right at that time where because of the Cold War, they were kind of looking for psychic kids for programs. Did you have any kind of assessment or any kind of involvement in that way
I have
at all?
I have a comment to that. I have a comment
Sure.
to that you may find interesting. Now that you mentioned schools, remember what I said, that my house, when I was a kid, when I was first introduced to these beings, back Lucas Valley Elementary Schools, and that's where I went to school, so that meant a lot of children were around that general vicinity, so that would explain maybe why beings are in that general vicinity in the first place, grooming the children, getting them young, right by a school.
Yes.
That's often crossed my mind, yes, many times, because youth, I know that my daughter doesn't like me saying this, but I know my grandson has been courted, and in the exact same spot where those blackberry balls came down, just so you know, the basketballs, when I was picking that blackberry ball, is the same place my grandson was ordained by them or brought in by them. So
okay, yeah.
So
you got the family generational thing going on, as well as my family as well, and other people that I've talked to. And if you get a chance to read Whitley Strieber's book, The Secret School, he's talking about.
Oh yeah, I know Whitley Strieber's.
So a lot of people, like when they become contactees later, it's like they backtrack and realize, like for myself, I started, when I finally was in a place to mentally accept all that, I finally backtracked and realized there was a lot of odd events that I now understand as being either part of the governmental involvement with children that were connected to ET, or
am I speaking with Janet, or is it Janet or Karen?
Karen. This is Karen. I'm Karen.
Karen, here's the thing that's actually going on. The reality is these beings, they're not just going to miraculously appear here. They're already here. And oddly enough, I'm working on a video right now relating that exact subject, just so you know. But oddly enough, they're already here, and I've captured, just so you know, not only video of actual aliens, I also have a video of their crafts. But I do of orbs. I do have actual images that I took in that barn where my darkroom was back in 2012, and I just recently started really going over those images, doing some contrast images of them, and the things that show up in them are just incredible. They're alien faces, and you can see the perfectly gray aliens. That barn they're filled with it. It's filled with them, and it goes on and on, very deep. And so these beings are already here and have been, that I know of since I've been a young kid, and they can shape-shift. They can be a person you're standing next to in a store. They can be a person that you're even working with. They can be a person you just see on the street. I'm just telling you, this is how they're part of us. We are them and they are us. This is what they've told me. But see,
I've even heard of that with a multi-generational family context where they also had orbs in their barn. It's very interesting because you're telling me a lot of stuff that correlates with other people's testimony, for sure.
Yeah. And the bottom line is there's a false fabric of society that's been laid out for us, and governmental is really part of that because they really like to endorse that false flag or fabric, so people fall behind it and think that this is the real world and what's really going on, when the reality is, if they open their eyes to the truth and search for the truth, it's out there. It's just not being told by officials, and they don't want to tell it. And it's gotten to the point that people don't need the officials telling them because the people know what's going on, and the officials are looking bad. They've got egg on their face for not speaking up a long time ago.
I'm just curious, Karen, what were you born? I was born in 54, and so my grandmother was telling me about an episode in 1964, and then she died a month later. So she was born. That grandmother was born around the turn of the century, and my father was born in 1920, my mother in 22. So I think that this is going all the way back through the generations, back to, the early 1900s. And then, yeah, you're right about we're living in this fictitious reality. Yeah, and so this is at least
the coronation.
Well,
just so you know, the coronations have a lot to do with it. With the royalty, when they get appointed royalty, they go through their coronation. That's all alien. It's all extraterrestrial, otherworldly beings coming here and doing this stuff. And it's like, this goes all the way back. Like I said, I come from the House of Habsburg, and they are the Holy Roman Empire. The Holy Roman Empire, at one particular point in history, was poised to be the Catholic Church. So when you think about the significance of that, and when you think about the garb that they've come to me in, one of them, three of them actually appear in black robes with hoods. And what do monks wear? Black robes with hoods. And I've looked up what the reasoning of these black hoods, and there are respect that you've given away the world, that you aren't part of the world. The black represents you're not part of the world. You're part of something else other than this world, and you serve something else. Okay, so these beings are apparently subservient to something else, because that's a sign of humility, the black. So there's something bigger than them too. Okay, so this is.
I was contacted recently by one of the ambassadors to the White Dragon China family, and then so all roads go back to the Anunnaki, but there's even more beyond and above the Anunnaki. Like who are these interdimensionals that seem to be controlling things from behind their wall. They're from another dimension. So they call them the Archons. It gets into David Icke stuff, and when you start connecting.
And the book of Anunnaki was actually removed from the Bible. The book of Anunnaki was actually removed from the Bible. They won't even let that be in the Bible, and that's probably the most truthful pieces that's been put in that book.
The Anunnaki. Where do we get? How do you know about the book? Tell me about the book of the Anunnaki, because I've not heard of the book of the Anunnaki that was removed. I thought the Bible was more of a, manipulation and conflagration of Constantine and Fifth Ecumenical Council, but they did remove like a whole encyclopedia. The book of the Bible is just a small piece of what was written.
Susie. Okay, Anunnaki was one of the books that it's my understanding and my research that it was removed from the Bible. It's not part of it anymore. And that they were what considered the ant people, or the people that lived underground, and they're finding caves and caves and caves. The History Channel's Ancient Aliens has profiled this case, and I started researching it, not case, but this whole subject, and I started researching it myself. And they were hiding from something. The Anunnaki were hiding from something, and they were tunneling into the earth and hiding from something that was attacking from air, because these caverns is the only reason they can think of that they would live so deep in. But what I'm getting at is about the Bible, and let me tell you something. I've personally not been a very I was raised Catholic and everything else. My wife went to Catholic school and the whole 9 yards. The bottom line is I have a different perception of what religion really is, because the beings that I've actually been with actually claim to be the angels our scriptures speak of. Now, here's something I learned when my wife was Susie had insisted on this after contact, which was the next thing I was going to talk about. But after contact, she insisted that I
told him to go see a priest.
She wanted me to go see a priest, and I said, I'm not going to see a priest. I said, I don't want to see anybody in the Catholic Church. And she says, well, go see somebody. So we did. I went to a church where we knew a pastor. His name was Pastor Grant, and he was actually a really cool preacher. It was Assemblies of God, was it? Or
I believe it was Assemblies of God, little teeny tiny church.
I believe that's what it was. And I told him about my experiences and the mark that they put on my forehead, the hole in the middle of my forehead, and it's still there. The hole that goes all the way in with a seal around it. And he says, "Oh my God, Mike," he says, "Do you realize what you are?" And I go, no. I said, I'm just here because my wife wanted me to talk to you about this experience. He says, no. He said, I'm glad you did. He says, you're the 144,000. And I go, what's the 100? You know what the 100, everybody knows now. I'm sure most people do, but I didn't really know what it was back then. As a matter of fact, my religious quest didn't begin until I really started searching for answers, because my mom says, I have a feeling you're going to find a lot of answers to things going on in that book. He was the only one I really could, who I could talk to. So I've been on a quest, seriously, all of my life. Oh, and not all of my life, a good 23 years, and I'm 56 now, 23 years of whatever that is, I was 23 and
half your life,
half my life
yes.
reading every version of the Bible. I now have computer versions.
Or excuse me, more than half your life.
I mean, you want to get right down to the scriptures and stuff like that. I mean, we're talking about the new city, the new Jerusalem, as it descends out of the skies in Revelation chapter 21. It's the form of a cube, and it's some estimated. I have the exact calculations written down. 1,100 miles square. That's a huge ship. It's the size of a small country coming down. And when Jesus speaks of in Matthew and Luke about the lightning as is coming, the lightning shall flash from the east to the west. Of course, something coming through the atmosphere that large. I mean, if our little Apollo capsules,
you're not going to miss it.
You're not going to miss it. There's going to be lightning everywhere. So if this vessel comes through, it's going to hang halfway out of our stratosphere. And figure if our stratosphere ends somewhere up around 50 miles, this thing's 1,100 miles. That's pretty far out there. I mean, it's going to cause some atmospheric disturbances, and what it would do to the planet, I'm not sure, but it's a massive ship. And then right down to Peter's vision in Acts 10:10 and 11:5, when he sees a certain vessel descending out of the heavens, being let down by the four corners. He couldn't describe what it was he was seeing, but he's just describing something he's seeing coming down out of the heavens that lets off all animals, all kinds, four-footed beasts, and he hears what he says, the Lord's voice say, "Rise, Peter, kill, slay, and eat." And he says, "Not so, Lord, for I've never eaten anything uncommon or unclean." The bottom line is these are messages from the Malach, or the messengers of God, or the angels sending him, that it's okay to eat. You're hungry, find this food and eat it if you have to survive. And this is what's happening. Okay, so this is going on. Ezekiel, the wheel within the wheel, is spinning one direction. He couldn't describe what it was he was seeing. You got Elijah and Esau when they're walking along, and Elijah turns over his powers over to Esau and says, "I have to go." And then all of a sudden chariots of fire come, and they bring him up in a whirlwind, and he goes up inside of a chariot and disappears in asunder. I mean, this stuff's all over in that Bible. I mean, to be honest, and those answers were in there.
Bible, if you track the stories down and you start looking at from this modern perspective of alien contact, your eyes will bug out of your head. You go, holy crap, it's been going on the whole time. And those, that was basically the Anunnaki created religions to keep us separate from understanding who we are, what we were, and divide and conquer.
Susie Susie, who's right here, my wife.
I am.
She saw several.
Right.
Okay, there's other things that happen. I get taken off the side of the freeway. Okay, from I met her after I saw the mock moons, the mountain sphere, and I told her when I first met her back in '78 that okay.
When we were dating, Michael was telling me stories of the mountain sphere and the four moons, and I honestly thought he was insane. I mean, because you get, I was 15 when I met him.
Catholic.
So, yes, and I went to Catholic school and all that. So to think of it in that way was, as a child, it took me a long time to really grasp the concept of it. Yes.
1983, when I was actually taken into the craft finally and actually had some sort of memories of this, and I asked her, I said, "Do you believe in aliens?" And she goes, "No." And I said, "What if I told you I saw them out in the field there?" No, that's exactly how it was.
That was
true,
yes.
Right after contact, and she was. I was bewildered. It's quite an in-depth experience. Let me explain that I'll try to be fast on it. This happened this is really the first time that I had contact that I remember, other than the beings in the atrium. This was really significant contact, and when they put the mark on my forehead and all of it. Well, in 1983, I used to work 4 10-hour days, and I was off Friday, Saturday, Sundays, and so Friday night we went to bed after watching TV. We put our daughter down to sleep, And it's probably about midnight when we go to bed. And we lived out in West Petaluma, just over the hill from Two Rock Coast Guard Base. I don't know if you know where that is, but it's out in the sticks.
We lived off of Bodega Highway.
And I want to set the setting that the farm that we lived on had my brother living next door who had been with me during Mountain Sphere, and his wife and his kids, and also my mom and dad had a house on this farm. And we had a house on top of the hill on the farm. And we had like Monterey pine trees surrounding us because we had planted 150 of them around mine and my brother's places. Anyway, at 3:30 in the morning, I'm awoken while Susie's asleep to a sound that sounds like chants, okay? It was like a turbine engine, and it sounded like chants. It was, and I think I'm dreaming at first, and I just kind of brush it off, and it keeps going. It's getting louder. So I open my eyes, and I look up on my upper wall in my room. There's all this orange light just flashing all over the walls. I go, whoa. And I go, Susie, wake up. Susie, wake up. She wouldn't wake up, okay? And I shook her, and she would not wake up. She's snoring. I come on. And I look at the cat, and the cat would jump any time I got up, and the cat's still sound asleep up by the head of my bed. And this is weird. So I get up. I'm in my boxers, and I go out to the living room, and I go look back at my daughter's room, and I see the light flashing off her walls, flashing off of mirror tiles in our living room. And so I go into my daughter's room, see if she's okay. I try to wake her. She wouldn't wake. And I look out her window onto the hill, and all I see is our pine trees swaying in the wind. It was kind of like windy, and I could see this light, bright light. And the best way I could describe it is almost like a work crew on the road, but it was an orange light that looked like a fire on the hill. So I'm thinking, what's going on out there? So I go to the living room where it's just flashing all over. I said, oh, man, there's a fire on the hill. So I open the front door. I go out and look at the field. First thing I look at straight out there because I can't see anything because of the pine trees. Oh, I see a field. It looks like it's glowing. I said, oh, man, there's a fire. So I go out there, seeing where it was, and I look, as I go out the gate and get past the trees, I look, there's a huge, probably about 30-foot orange sphere, and I mean, it was very clean looking, just very bright, glowing orange, just like my brother and I saw in the mountains. It was very, very, very like a shiny, but the light in the sphere would look like fire burning in it, which is making everything glowing. It was hovering about 3 feet off the ground. And like I said, about 30 feet. There was a huge walnut tree that we had that it was actually larger than our huge walnut tree. And I remember I'm standing out there with the gate open, and right behind me was my brother's house. And I go, oh, my God, it's a thing from the mountains. And I start yelling. I start screaming. I go, Ron, get out of here. It's the thing from the mountains. Come here, come here. And so with that, the next thing I remember is three beings appearing right before that. But before that orange sphere, there were two little grays, and this time the grays are about 3.5, probably 4 feet, 3.5, 4 feet, dressed in like, I'm sure it wasn't lycra, but it looked like a black spandex lycra suit with like slippers on their feet, and they had gloves on their hands, but I could see that they had 4 digits on the gloves. Then there was also a tall being, one tall one, which is probably somewhere between 8 and 9 feet, and I'm suspecting Anunnaki or something like that, or ancient Sumerian or something. I don't know. I'm just guessing here on that.
Humanoid?
But he's got a
was it humanoid or man?
That's what it was. No, this was a humanoid, very humanistic looking, black eyes. Had black eyes, no hair at all on his head. It was dressed in a black robe, like not a robe, but it had loose-fitting legs, like they draped almost like a karate suit. It was gathered in the center, and that thing just towered over those little grays. And I remember being petrified. I remember looking back at my house, and the front door is still wide open. I'm thinking my wife and kids are in there, my cats, everything's in there. I'm thinking, what? I couldn't move. I couldn't even move my head. All I could see this in my peripheral vision, and then my vision goes back to them, and I realize this is real, and I start passing out. And right before I hit the ground, everything, all the noise, everything just vanishes. I black out, and instantly I'm waking up in bed. It's 8 o'clock in the morning. I hear my wife in the kitchen. And she's making breakfast, and my daughter's out there got cartoons on. It's Saturday morning. I go, what the hell? Did this happen? I go out there. I was bewildered. She remembers the incident very well too to this day. I go out to the living room. My kid's sitting on the couch. I sit on the couch next to her watching the cartoon, and I'm just thinking about the whole night. What was that? What the heck was going? What happened? And it gets weirder than this. She says to me, Susie says, "Is there something wrong?" And
yeah, I asked him if there was something wrong, and he's like, "No, there's nothing wrong. And then finally he tells me about his contact experience, and I was breathless. I couldn't, you know, I'm like, oh, no kidding, you know. I didn't think it was real.
Yeah, that's what I asked her. The way the conversation actually came out was she kept prying because she wanted to know. She knew something was up with me. She was at the fridge, and I said, do you believe in other life? And she goes, no. And I go, why? And she's, because there's nothing else. I said, what if I told you that I saw aliens? And she said, where would you see aliens? I said, out in the field last night. She said, oh, my God. She said, I see, you're crazy. I said, why would you say I'm crazy? I said, have you ever thought about what the angels are? And she goes, they're ethereal beings. I said, they have heavenly bodies. I said, we get transformed into them. I said, she said, I didn't want to discuss this. She said, I don't want to discuss this. So I went down. We ate breakfast. I went down to my mom's house. You know, here's how heavy this story actually gets. We ate breakfast. I went down to my mom's house. There was a security light. My dad's up on a ladder in the parking lot, and there's a security light out there in the parking lot. And he's up there. He says, Mike, hold this ladder for a minute. And he's up there, and he's replacing it. And he says, this is insane. So I just bought this like 2 weeks ago. It's already burned out. And I said, how long do I usually last? He says, 6 months, a year. He says, this is ridiculous. So the light's burned out in the parking lot. He says, go in the house. Mom's got some coffee. Go talk with her. So I walk in, Mom's sitting at the table drinking coffee, and she's got the morning edition of the Press Democrat newspaper. And she says, I'm glad you showed up. There's something I want to show you. You're always telling me about what you and your friends saw in the mountains and stuff and all the other stuff that you've seen. She says, right here in the paper, Sonoma County Sheriff's Deputy spotted a cross-shaped UFO hovering over the Katati grade, and it was seen, appeared going down into the Petaluma Valley, then it vanished. And we lived in the Petaluma Valley. That's exactly where our farm was, in the Petaluma Valley. So it made sense. And I'm thinking, wait a second, this just happened last night. So this was the Saturday morning edition of that morning's paper. So it just came out. It was a fresh story, and it happened that night. So I go back. I said, I'm going back home. She says, what's wrong? She says, you don't look good. I said, I'm really tired. So I went home. I was exhausted. I couldn't explain what happened to the time because I remember getting up. I didn't even seem like I slept. I'm exhausted. I'm laying in bed, and with that, my wife says, well, why don't we take the kid down to play, our daughter down to your brothers who live next door so she could play with her cousins. So I said, when I get up, we would. So I did. I got up. We went down and visited my brother and his wife, and his daughter and my daughter were playing. And my brother says, little brother, what the hell was wrong with you last night? And I go, what? and he goes, why were you in the middle of that field screaming, oh, my God, Ron, get out here. The thing to the mountains, it's here, it's here. I go, I wasn't out there. I denied it. So they heard me. His wife says, yeah, you were, Mike. You were sitting right there, Susie.
Oh, definitely. No, Michael's brother's wife, before she passed on, had said you were out there.
Yeah, right. She just died recently.
Screaming, yeah.
When did she die?
She passed in 2014.
In 2014, she passed right before she died. She says, Mike, I want to let you know you were out there screaming. And I said, yeah, I know. I said, you know the story. She said, yeah, I know. She said, I want to let you know, and I've had experiences too. So right before she died, she told me that she had been followed to work. But anyway, they heard me out there, and that night, that particular night, I was so tired. By the way, he didn't see the light because he used movers pads as curtains in his back wall, and apparently he couldn't hear the noise because apparently that noise was designed for me to get me out there. He didn't hear the noise. First of all, he was attacked by aliens at I Street Extension where my sister's farm was in his car, and they didn't like him very much. They weren't very nice to him. They wouldn't let his car start, and they just literally jumped. He said, don't ever go out there, brother. He said, I was out there with someone. He says they attacked me out there. He said they were all over the car. He says, finally I got my car started, and they were jumping as I took off. And anyway, they didn't like him much. So they weren't interested in taking him. And as a matter of fact, one of the last things he said to me when he passed on from Morgellons, congestive heart failure, and a lot of other things.
This was in 06.
06. And he says to me in my last conversation, he says, so you a preacher yet? And I go, no. I said, why you ask me that? He goes, that thing in the mountain. He said, it wasn't for me, it was for you. And so he knew it too. But anyway, that night I go to sleep after contact. Let me finish this real fast. We go to sleep. I go to sleep after contact, and I wake up. All of a sudden, I wake up to the feeling of floating through my ceiling. And the next thing, I'm in a pure white room. There's no lights or fixtures, but it's a nice white, soft, bright white light. and the room was completely filled with light. I was not laying on any table. I was actually being levitated in the air. There were 3 gray beings, one at my foot, 2 at my head. There were 2 little blue beings holding a small baby. They were about 3 foot tall, and very short, tubular looking, and they were holding looked like a baby, honestly, a young blue baby. And then the humanoid being that I had seen, and the 3 grays. As I'm laying there, my eyes are open. I start to push myself up. I was not pushing myself up, but I'm starting to sit up. It's like I wasn't on a table, so I'm starting to sit up. And the being at my feet just puts its hand in the air. Its hand. I'm not saying his because there is no male or female of these beings. It puts its hand in the air, and boom, down. I'm back down, and all I remember is an immediate thrust. He grabs a long syringe, about a foot long, with something attached to it, off the counter behind him, or some sort of table counter, or whatever, and he just shoves it right in the center of my forehead, and that's the first thing I remember. I thought I was going to die from that, but I didn't even feel it. And then the next thing I remember is like this long arm had like weird, like almost like, what do you call, triangular shaped things on it, like metal things, and went up my sinuses, one of my sinuses. And
I read it. Go ahead.
The next thing I remember, by the way, I have X-rays. I had 2 X-rays. One from Palm Drive Hospital, where I went in for sinus infection back in '91. And they showed up on the X-rays, and the doctor brought me in. He's asked if I had ever had any surgery up in my sinuses. I go, no. He says, are you sure? I said, I think I remember surgery, doctor. And he called me in. He showed me the X-ray, and there's a piece of, it looks like a piece of a surgical device broke off or something in there. And he says, it's not causing you problems, is it? And I go, no. But then it showed up again on a Kaiser X-ray when I had an accident on a bicycle when they did a C-spine X-ray. So that's in my sinus still, and there's a hole in the center of my forehead that's so that you could take a toothpick and literally stick it into.
You can. It's really interesting. But yeah, the toothpick just goes right in.
Right.
Okay, we've got some questions. I want to do some feedback and questions because there's all incredible stuff. So remember, we're talking about the hole in your head and the toothpick. I'll pass it to Karen first because I can see her over there with her hand up, my mind's eye.
Go for it.
Karen, I know you have some feedback. Go ahead. You first, and then
she knows me so well. Yeah. No, we are very contemporary. I'll be 55 in April, so we're pretty close in age. So, and we're close in some areas that we live where there was a lot of activity. But I really got excited when you talked about, you thought something was on fire, because my 1979 sighting that was with a relative of mine, we saw something coming. We're like on a highway, and we saw something kind of parallel to the highway coming toward us, and that's what we thought. It looked like an airplane was on fire. It was like an orangish, pinkish kind of light, and then the next thing we thought was that it might have been, because that was when everyone thought Skylab was going to fall on their house. Back in the day, Skylab 1 was falling out of the sky, and we're like, an airplane probably wouldn't be flying if it was that much flame. And so we thought, well, maybe it's that Skylab thing. We watched it, and as it got closer, we just realized it was rotating, and it had pink lights all around it. It was the shape of a star tetrahedron, so it was the craft. And I don't have missing time. I have altered time right in there. And it was my godfather we both saw it together. And to his dying day, he remembers it, and I had recently talked to my godmother, and she said he always talked about that, how weird that was. But yeah, that weird kind of pinky orange, and if it's somehow flickering or whatever, it does look remarkably like something on fire. So I could, can resonate with that part of the story. So, man, there's so much exciting stuff here to work with.
It goes all my life. It's all my life.
I get that.
I want to ask you a couple questions.
Go ahead.
Yeah, go ahead, Janet. I just wanted to mention the fire thing.
Questions and some.
Yes.
So there's a part of you that knows what all this is about. There's a part of you. The reason why I know this is because I have endless contact, and when they're touching your mind telepathically, you're also reading theirs. And so there's a part of you that really knows what the purpose of all this is. You mentioned the little blue baby. I too had. We're having the same contact. I had the large orange globes. The sinus problems that happened after this implant that they put up your nose. Did it happen to be your right nostril? Yeah. Anyway, I got the X-rays, and they were going, "What's going on with your head there?" Very strange X-rays. So let me ask your higher self and your part of you that is connected to these extraterrestrials. What is the purpose of the piercing in your head, and what is the purpose of the metal that they left behind?
The purpose of the piercing in my head was a link, and that's how they did something in my brain that when they put the pierce into my head, that immediately the walls of the craft went transparent, and I was able to communicate with them without even talking. It's like we think freely back and forth with each other. And we can still do this, okay? Even if I'm not with them, I can freely think back and forth with them. I know things before they're going to happen. This is just what it is.
Oh, that he does. It's really, really interesting.
They've gotten slicker. I've watched them get much more polished in how they abduct and cleaning. They don't even have to abduct anymore. It's not even necessary. But now they actually show up in things around me. Like I said, this next video I'm working on, people. I guarantee they're going to be floored when they see these beings in this, and they're there. Are they there, Susan?
Oh no, they are absolutely
there.
They are absolutely there. Yes.
Well, in other words, when I was just for instance, my niece was getting married back in 2012, and I told my wife that she was having her wedding out there in that area where that farm was, where the barns were. And I said I want to stop by and take some photos on the way out. And she goes, "Why?" She says, "We're going to be with our daughter and our grandson." And I said, "Well," I need to be there. She says, "Why?" I said, "Because I need to be there." So, Susie, you have a note there? Oh, excuse me, she's corrected me. Why don't you just say it? It's 2013, okay?
It is 2013.
2013, that's when you got married. It's 2013. Sorry on that.
It's all good.
Just say it. If I say the wrong date, let me know.
I will.
I'm not that good with dates, unless I got my actual book out in front of me. I mean, seriously. But 2013. So anyway, we stopped by the barn. I said, "Just pull in here." I said, "I know exactly what I need pictures of," because I was working on the chapter, Darkroom Fears, and the barn seemed abandoned to me. There's nothing around the house we lived in. It's just completely vacant, and it just all my dad's stuff is still sitting inside of this barn and everything else. Oh my God, I was 13 years old.
It's pretty ramshackle.
It's weird when you look at the pictures. When you look at these pictures, you see, oh my God, those are my dad's cups because he worked for Coca-Cola. I see all of his Coke cups still there. Stuff's just thrown all about in here. But anyway, I get out of the car. I said I'll be less than a couple minutes. I knew exactly what shots I was taking. I went snap. I took 8 pictures, in what was it, a minute and a half according to the camera properties. That's how fast I was in and out. I didn't even want to really be in there. So by the time I get out there, because when we get home, that's when we find out that it's been a minute and a half between the shots. Because when I get out to the car,
he was in there for 5 minutes.
That's the problem. Here comes the problem. When I come out of the door of the barn, I see the car completely parked in a different spot. It had backed up under where I'd been picking blackberries as a kid, where I saw that ball-shaped orb come out of the window. My grandson's in the back seat, back to the exact spot I was standing when I was picking blackberries. And I go, oh, my God. So I'm thinking this. So we go to the wedding. It was a weird day. We go home. I'm sitting around. I start unload the pictures out of the camera, and the things that we find in these pictures, the first thing that comes out so blatantly, obviously, is an orange orb, so clear. Now, the original file saved of all these images, just so you know, the original SD card. It's not been erased. There's an orange with a yellowish orange orb with an alien face inside of it. That's captured on the camera, which people will see in the video. There's also it's route images because I needed more pictures. And my wife says, I think I'd like to meet these beings. We're talking about it the other night. She says,
yes, we were.
I said, it's so weird that you'd even want to. I said, you're petrified. She says, no. She says, I think I'd like to know who they are. She says, they seem to be a big part of your life.
I'm still nervous about actually meeting if they want to meet me, but at the same time, I think it's a necessary step so I know what Michael's, a little bit closer to what Michael's experiences are.
So here's what I said. She says, I said, let me meditate on this. and see what response I get on this. And so I meditate for probably about an hour, and I said, I got an answer to your question. They tell me that when you're ready, you will meet them, and we don't even have to be at that barn for you to do so. You're just going to meet them, and they're going to appear, and you're going to see them. And she's okay. I said, I think they'll do it right here in our house. So oddly enough, I'm working on a segment right now, and I pulled up those old images from that barn, just as a matter of fact, this week, and I'm looking through it. Oh my God! And that's where I found all these gray aliens in the images. They're everywhere?
Oh, they definitely are. The shots are really, really amazing.
When I put contrast and filters on them, you go, oh my God, they're really there. And one of them is actually huge. It's a big being too. You can see it's a big being in these images, and she's watching me doing this on the computer, looking at all the thing, and she's like, wow, oh my God, those are gray aliens. Those are aliens. I said, yeah. I said, remember when they said they were going to meet you? I said, they're using a visual like they do right now. You're meeting them. And
yeah,
goes, wow.
No, those pictures still like burn in my mind. You have no trauma.
Right.
You got no trauma from the visit, so you got no trauma from that visit.
At all.
You got I said, you're being introduced right now. I said, understand, they're letting me know that they're introducing themselves to you right now. You're actually seeing them, and that's what I'm going to do. That's one of the purposes for me. First of all, it sounds like I'm crazy, but I'm not. My mom told me that she had memories of being on a craft when she was pregnant with me and my oldest brother, Ron. And she told Susie this.
She told me this about 2 years ago.
2 years ago too. So bottom line is, when those beings came to me in the atrium when I was a young boy, and they said they were my parents, I said, no, my parents are in the house, because that's what my mentality was. Okay, that's all I knew. My mom and dad are in the house. Bottom line is, they really are my parents. They are my third set of parents. I have my mom, my dad, and then what they do is genetically alter certain people in the womb on the craft. I'm not the only one like this. There's lots of us in this world like this. And the bottom line is, it is their genetic engineering how they do so. And the baby is somewhere that I was presented to in the craft, is somewhere in my line somewhere, and that's why I'm being presented with this baby. The bottom line is when what they do is I suffer from Morgellons disease and have a very rare case of Morgellons disease. I have seen specialist after specialist on this. There is no cure for it. The things that come out of Morgellons lesions are actually embryonic and have
some of them actually look like little baby eggs. It's very bizarre.
You can see the faces, and then if you magnify them,
you can
see the faces. They look like little babies with our limbs and everything else, and these things. Okay, this is part of their genetic engineering process. See, what they do, the people at the top of the pyramid who are being genetically modified, like I was in my mom's womb, they're the primary, okay? And they get a lot of the alien DNA. As they breed, like I have with my wife, and we have children, my children get more watered down, so they don't suffer as much, but they do have some sort of problems. But as it gets further and further down, it's like an orange juice or lemonade. You buy concentrate. Until you mix it with water, you can't drink it because it's so strong. And that's what's happening to a lot of these people who are the primaries. They're suffering from what is their breeding process. There are no male nor female. They're all the same. They're asexual. They basically give birth in a brood pouch, and they have an egg layer in their system, and when a certain hormone kicks in, it triggers this egg layer to lay eggs within that pouch, and their young are born that way. Okay. Now the bottom line is, in genetic engineering modification from hominids to human, basically what's happened here is the humans that are primaries are getting that drawback of that hormone triggering and firing, sending an egg layer through the bloodstream and through the system to lay an egg, but there's no brood pouch to lay it in a human, so the next best place is under the skin, and that's with the fibers and the stuff that people get out of their wounds. That is being caused by the embryo trying to grow, and it can't. Okay, and it has to be removed.
There's nowhere for it to go.
The only thing that seemed to make any sort of dent in my Morgellons, and this is directly from, I don't want to mention names, but he was, I've seen several doctors over this, and this one was particularly at Kaiser. I was referred to a specialist, a second specialist, who said that what's happening because they cause the crawling sensation and everything else too into your skin, just so you know, the Morgellons. They said the best thing for us to do is to silence those nerves, and so what they did is they put me, first medication they wanted to put me on was Orup, and Orup, just very expensive medication. I said I need something less expensive, and so they put me on risperidone. And risperidone, what it does is it deadens the nerve sensations, but it deadens everything in your body. And I couldn't live like that. It was just too hard. And the thing of it was, risperidone has what it does is it increases the prolactin production in the body, okay? Prolactin is the same thing that causes lactation in women, so it's a hormone, okay? And so basically what needs to happen to these primaries, what they need to do is develop a hormone, a pill, injection, or implant of some sort that can be distributed throughout the body, and the people who are these primaries and suffer Morgellons disease, shutting off that hormone from that alien DNA hormone from triggering the event of reproduction in the human body, because it needs to be done. This is basically what needs to happen. This is what needs to happen. I've talked to doctors back and forth, and the two specialists who have viewed the images said, I see exactly what you're seeing. He says, that is not human within your skin. He says, that's not human. But Susie, you were sitting right in the...
No, I was sitting right there when the doctor said that. I'm like, oh, dear, really? You know, then if it's not human, then what is it? And he had no idea.
I don't know. So I see everything he's talking about. You see the eyes, the nose, the mouth. He says, I see the leg coming up. He says, I see it all. He says, where? And it came out of a lesion, a Morgellons lesion, and and so he started taking. He took cores out. He checked for cancer and everything else.
It's not that.
I've been through the allergists and everything else. I've been through everything possible that you can go through. I went through every test under the sun. It's not cancer. It's not any sort of allergy. I come back zero on allergies. I said I was worried because I have a dog and a cat, and the allergist says, don't worry, you can take that dog and cat to bed with you. He says, you have no allergies. You are zero. He says, it's incredible. You have no allergies to anything. So this is bizarre, okay? All the doctors, they have no answers. No matter how hard they try, they can't find an answer. And this is the problem. This is why they're not finding it. The problem is, here, I did see also, because they insisted, they said they wanted to make sure that this wasn't in my head, all of this. I went and saw a shrink, just so you know, because I suffer post-traumatic stress disorder, and it's from being ripped out of cars and from being taken places when unexpected. I was very violently taken out of my car off the side of the road up here in Windsor in 1983. They lifted my car off the freeway, threw it out didn't throw it, but levitated it out into a field, put it out there. Two witnesses seeing my car in the middle of the field at whatever time in the morning it was, like 5. Let's see this. What time of the morning was that? It was about 4:40 in the morning. About 4:40 in the morning, seeing my car in the middle of the field, with the doors all locked, keys in ignition. I'm nowhere around. It's a desolated area, and they didn't see me walking anywhere. I get to work finally after 40 minutes of missing time. I'm leaving earlier and earlier to work. I get to work, and I'm right on time. The buzzer's going off. My one work buddy, Alex, had followed me up the freeway because his craft, after putting me back in my car and lifted me back to the side of the road, we chased it up the freeway, the two of us, and this thing is just hovering off the freeway. It's like a white hovercraft. And right as we get to our exit, to where we needed to exit up in Hillsburg to go to work, this thing just shot straight up and then went straight up to the sky. And we both look at it. We get to work, and he says to me, Mike, what was that? I said, I don't know. You saw it. And I just spent 40 minutes in a craft this whole thing when they discussed the Ark of the Covenant, why we don't have the power of that thing anymore because it was misused, what's going to happen, that the meek do actually inherit the earth, all of the riches, the wars, all of it will go away. And they show visuals, a lot of different visuals. And they asked, what am I? I said, I basically.
So you said what? They're showing you this stuff on ships?
Yes.
Okay, we have to slow down a little bit because you're really. I know you're excited. You're really racing.
I'm sorry. I'm trying to cover a lot of territory.
No. I understand it, and this is great. And we can have you back. We will have you back if you will come back, because I know you've got something phenomenal here. And I work with experiencers, and there are those that are kind of everything's in the dark, and they remember little bits and pieces, and you have to hypnotize them. But you have a lot of conscious memories. Imagine if we hypnotize you, and I'd like to invite you to. We will do that. My husband and I are both, hypnotherapists. But right now, let's take a little short break. And when we come back, I want to talk about what you just said. And I did look up Morgellons, and it says Morgellons disease, a crime of silence, proof that Morgellons is man-made, et cetera, et cetera. So there's information that this is some kind of...
Morgellons has no federal diagnosis code.
Pardon?
Morgellons disease has no federal diagnosis code. The shrink, when he tried to prescribe the medication and tried to put in Morgellons disease in the computer, he showed me, and my wife was sitting right there in the office.
It doesn't come up.
It defaults to psychotic disorder.
Right. And we'll talk about that. We're going to take a little short 4-minute break, and we will talk about that when we get back. Just go get yourself something to drink. I know you've been talking a lot. And we'll be back in 4 minutes. Okay. Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you.
Join the KCOR Digital Radio Network Tuesday at 2:30 p.m. Pacific as we connect the dots and unravel the cosmic mysteries with Divine Paradigm. Divine Paradigm, hosted by Dr. Sasha Lessin and Janet Kira Lessin. Interview those in the know, whether it be researchers, whistleblowers, contactees, or military mind control programs.
Testing. Can you hear me?
Have you ever wanted to learn about ancient texts, suppressed history, spiritual ascendance, as well as past, future, and simultaneous life existences?
This is one of the most important decisions you'll ever make.
Then you need to tune into Divine Paradigm.
Divine Paradigm.
Tuesdays at 2:30 p.m. Pacific. 5:30 p.m. Eastern.
I'm doing it. I can do it. I'm doing it.
Exclusively on the KCOR Digital Radio Network. Coming March 1st, 2016.
Every region of the world and most countries can go back in their history and trace their origins, traditions, and religions to a creator god or an angel from the sky, the stars, heaven, or even underground from the underworld. This is the common story of extraterrestrials seeding our planet. My name is Reverend John M. Polk. I am an international metaphysical minister, a Reiki master teacher, and a medium. My book is Yahweh, the Biblical God is an Alien. The premise of my book is that there is a real God and that Yahweh is a creator God alien who is indicating he is ready to reveal his alien origins to humanity at this time. You can find my book at johnpolkmedia.com. That's JOHNPOLK media.com. johnpolkmedia.com.
My name is Karen Christine Patrick, and I want to tell you about the Cleanse for Life solution from Isogenics. The need to cleanse is vital in today's dangerously toxic world. Our demanding lifestyles, environmental toxins, poor nutrition, and daily stresses overload our body's own detoxification defenses. Unlike a colon cleanse or laxative product, Cleanse for Life uses a synergistic blend of gentle cleansing herbs and other natural compounds to ensure the energizing nutrients flood into the body as the toxins are cleansed out. My favorite Isogenics product is the Cleanse for Life solution. I drink it as a hot beverage in the morning every day. You can find out more at my website, kcpatrick.isogenics.com. That's K, C as in cat, patrick.isagenics.com. kcpatrick.isogenics.com. Cleanse for Life.
Who are we to say? With all the planets and all the galaxies and all the solar systems, we're the only intelligent life form? We can't. An out-of-this-world experience here on Earth. Your eyes will be open to an exciting lineup of speakers, exhibitors, and copious aha moments. Experiencers, UFOs, extraterrestrials. It's all coming. Alien Cosmic Expo, June 24th to 26th at the Best Western Plus Brant Park Inn. Tickets at aliencosmicexpo.com.
And we're back at Aquarium Radio at aquariumradio.com, and I'm your host, Janet Care Lessin, with my co-host, Karen Christine Patrick, and we are interviewing Michael Davis and his lovely wife, Susie is with us, adding her commentary. I love couples. They're very cute. You guys go back and forth quite like a fine-tuned act. You go back and forth in your dialogue. Very, very sweet. You can tell you've been together a while.
That's very sweet of you to say.
I wanted to say a couple things before we go back, because this is fascinating for me, and I want to slow it down and break it down for our listeners, and also for myself. I need to digest some of it because it's just phenomenal. Do you realize when you're an experiencer and you're sharing your experiences, and there's another experiencer, you trigger their memories and they start having, it's just a whole process, and it's a grand awakening and phenomenal. But I'm having some triggers. Not that I'm upset. It's just that I'm currently remembering things, and it's like I want to talk about it, add 2 cents and those type of things. Let's see. What did I want to say? I do want to, Karen. I feel you out there. I want to give you some chance to talk. But I just wanted to say, Michael, you said earlier that this was that you're a royal family, and my family goes back. And what does it mean to be royal to you? That's one thing. In my research, what it means to be royal is that the demigods, the kings, were the children of the direct descendants of the Anunnaki. When they were making the decision to withdraw from the earth and kind of go back behind the scenes, more covert and overt, because some of them had actually been wounded and potentially killed by humans who realized that while they may be long-lived or immortal, so they thought they're definitely vulnerable to wounding and potential death. So they started to go behind the ziggurats and behind the priesthoods and the kingships. And so the kings and the royals are royal blood, meaning it's more Anunnaki blood than the average human being. So from your perspective, though, because you mentioned this whole history, and we're going to go into that probably in another show, how your Hannah was a Jewish chambermaid, and she got pregnant by Crown Prince Rudolph. Why you? And also, so you have the lineage. Why you instead of your brothers? Or you have two brothers. You are the chosen one in your family, and what's behind that? What do you think?
Well, I'm going to answer that in just 1 second, but what I would like to say is let you know that the reason I go through this so fast is because the usual place that I do speak is like MUFON, and I have a time limit, and I try to get a lot of information out there during the time limit, and so that's what's happening. I'm kind of rushing through it, and I don't want to do that now, so let's take our time here. Now, why me? Because it's really simple.
Yeah.
Because I am their child. And first of all, I'd like to correct you. I am not a royal family. I am an illegitimate grandson to a member of royal family. But no, I am from Franz Joseph and Elizabeth, who was his first cousin, and also my great-great-great-grandmother, which is kind of bizarre, but it's not that royal when you think about it. It's really not that royal. They have no money. They're paupers now. They've lost everything.
Being a royal, I'm talking about they have their bastard lines poised, and when they need to pull somebody up for leadership, they pull from their own bastard line. So, like Clinton, he's a bastard line, but they're all related. All the presidents are related, and you know that. And so you have that seed, that blood. And for them, the blood, the family is so important, and there is a connection with the Greys because they're all part of this. The Greys work with the Anunnaki, the Greys work with the Tall Whites, the Greys. They're all together. They're all in cahoots somehow. It's just like human beings have tall, giant people, and they also have, dwarves. Not to say midget, dwarves, and so all the above. They have variations on the theme. And you are related to them because of your linking back to Crown Prince Rudolph, and also them telling you that we are your parents. So you've had some genetic input while you were perhaps in the womb or before you were inserted in the womb. Somewhere they have a process. And, of course, they're doing that with a lot of experiencers that are coming forth and realizing that they are hybrids and that they can create hybrid beings for more than, parents, right? Many parents, many.
Let me track you there, because we're all hybrids.
Yeah.
Every one of us are a hybrid. We come from a Neanderthal, okay, and we've been crossbred with Neanderthal. That makes us hybrid right there, okay? We didn't come from amoebas. So we are all hybrids, and we've all been crossbreeded from Neanderthals by these messengers doing their duty, the duty of the Creator. There's one Creator.
Right, and they're finding when you get your ancestry DNA, go get your spit analyzed, right? I just set mine off because I want to see what is my composition. And, of course, they're filtering it, and they're not doing the test for the alien DNA. But I heard there's one coming soon to test for alien DNA. And, of course, that means that we have to have disclosure that there are aliens that are breeding with humans. But that will be next. We will be looking back and going, here's where I discovered what my alien DNA is. But I have some hybrid children whose parents were in the military. Karen, what's her name? We had Nisha Johnson and Cindy Crawford. Cindy Crawford was on my show, and she said her father on his deathbed confessed to her that she was part of the alien hybrid program, and she had, I think she had gray blood and mantis blood, DNA within her human form, and that was an ongoing genetic experiment, and her father had been a hybrid, so we're going back at least 50 to 100 years. Second and third generation hybrid experiment. So you are part of that program somehow, and you were chosen for that program. Anyway, so I just wanted to interject that. Karen, did you want to say anything before we go back to what was being said about all the biblical stuff on the ship?
Yeah, it was well, I'm just going to throw out that the Book of Anunnaki it could possibly, I'm just asking, be the Book of Enoch, because that's the one that talks about the giant.
It's the same book.
Yeah.
It's the same book.
Yeah.
It's the same book.
Right. And then the other thing I wanted to kind of throw out on the DNA type of thing is that at some level, DNA is kind of like the coin of the realm. It's one of the commodities that higher level races are messing around with. We are all hybrids, approximately, possibly up to the government, back in government said like 22 different races. So there's really quite a bit going on with us. It's not just simply the gray or just the Anunnaki.
That's the other thing when you have guests saying that they're special hybrid, they're not. The human race is all a hybrid race, just so everybody's aware. The human race is, each and every one of you are all hybrid. No, there's no specials there. And when you ask me why me and not my brothers, it's because, I'll be blunt, my brothers weren't nice. My brother Rich and my brother Ron, that Mom had memories of being on a craft with also when she was pregnant, well, they both weren't nice. My brother Ron would kick doors in, kick windows in, and wasn't a nice guy. They didn't like him. That's why they attacked his car, okay? My brother Rich was another one. He was not a nice guy. I'm not going to get into his personal lifestyle, but he was not a nice guy. So they weren't interested. The only one that, I'm a pretty mellow guy myself, and I know that I have a different perspective of religion than most people, than all people, I would suppose. But the bottom line is, I know there's one Creator, and it's not male, it's not female, it's an entity. It's the glue, the fabric holding all of the glue holding our entire fabric, our whole
energy.
Universe, the energy holding the entire universal expanse together. So I have a different perspective of what our Creator is. I don't look at him as a man with a beard sitting in the clouds. I don't look at angels as little fat cherubim who fly around with wings on their back. I know Jesus was the ultimate hybrid. If you want to talk about somebody being the ultimate hybrid, he was sent here to teach us about love, understanding, compassion. He had a mother of earth and a father who was otherworldly. So he was shadowed down upon from very powerful beings, okay, or entities. So he's the ultimate hybrid. They didn't like him. He denounced money. Everything that he taught was non-monetary and all about forgiveness and understanding, if somebody wanted forgiveness and understanding. And he'd say, how many times are you supposed to forgive somebody? 70 times 7. So, hey, that's in the Bible for people who read that book, and there's a lot of stuff in that Bible that is really good knowledge. So I'm not knocking the Bible. I'm just telling you that the people who wrote that book, as I told my wife last night, I said, I'm going to be honest about it. They were men, and very uneducated men, who had no idea what technology even was when they wrote these Bibles. They're saying they're God-inspired, but Anybody could say they're God-inspired. Anybody could say that. The bottom line is they had no education, no way of even explaining what it is they're seeing. So that's everything's always the Noah's Ark. I believe was a DNA bank. I know there's floods. Geological surveys and studies show that there were floods here, and shows certain continents were underwater. That's showing where we actually know where the cities of Atlantis are. Okay, but the bottom line is, was there this big ark with two of every kind of animal in? No, let's be logical here.
It was DNA.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense.
Right. Let's call it the way it is. They save the DNA of everything. Okay, they have the DNA. Not only that, we see the Egyptian hieroglyphics and the images on the walls. They were doing experiments and operations back before experiments and operations even existed. I mean, we have literal beings who came here, Nephilim or supposedly, or Anunnaki or Sumerians, ancient Sumerians, whatever you want to call them, okay? You can call them whatever you want to, ancient beings that were doing operations and doing experiments, changing one animal to another, from putting heads of lions in one thing and doing weird stuff, okay? That's how they create. This is what they do, and this is what we are, is a creation of theirs. Some of the things aren't so perfect, okay? The Montauk creature, I don't know if people are familiar with that. The Montauk creature, nobody really knows what that thing was that showed up on that beach there, and it disappeared. So who knows exactly how much experimentation is really going on? We don't have a clue.
Well, we can understand it because, we can understand this now better in our modern era because we're ostensibly trying some of this stuff. Some of this has been, banned by international treaties, but hey, that doesn't stop a mad scientist, right? Or a determined government who wants to know, what happened. Well, I had a joke. One genetic scientist says to the other genetic scientist, what happens when you cross an aardvark with an artichoke? And the other one goes, I don't know. And he says, jar number 13. Because they're trying, right?
Exactly,
So, I mean, we understand more of, even the story about the Sumerians creating us more or less from a hybridization now because we're there. We now have even tested genetic cures for diseases that are being worked out in stem cell research. So we're there yet. We're there yet. Yeah, we're there yet.
We have an educational system.
Yes. So we're there now at that same level as some of those, and we'll continue to develop technologies. Probably already been developed, and it's under wraps by the governments, but they don't know how to really introduce this to us. Many of the government and parts of the alien agenda do not want to reveal this to humanity at this time. I've been notified they don't have a choice there. It's going to happen, and we're going to have to make some sense of it, and it's going to be those of us who've had these experiences who put it together and integrate it into our life and mind and philosophy.
That's why me.
Yeah.
You asked why me?
Yeah.
Okay, you asked why me? This is why me, because this is what I do. I spend my life doing this. I put videos out there. I write books. I'm always talking about this. I'm sharing it and spreading it to everybody. They knew I'd be a wonderful mouthpiece, okay, and that's what they used me for. That's why me. They've groomed me since I was a child for this, given me one experience after the other, even let me take pictures of them, gather images so I could share it with the world. They knew that's why me.
So where do you have these? There's somewhere that we can see them.
They are right now being published to a video, which is getting done and in the works of, and it'll be the next one posted. It is called Aliens Caught on Picture and Video.
Where do you get that Aliens Caught on Picture and Video? Where might we find that? Is that going to be on YouTube?
You can find. It'll be on Michael Davis Alien Abduction Talk, and you can look that up on YouTube, and it should be available. Also, I'm going to give you some addresses where you can find some things. First of all, that's Michael Davis. If you Google or YouTube Michael Davis Alien Abduction Talk, you'll get the new video that will be coming out when it's posted, as soon as it's posted, and that particular video will be called Aliens Caught on Picture and Video. Okay, the book that I wrote, Falling Sky, it's on Amazon Kindle, and you can also find the book by Googling Michael Davis Falling Sky. There's also another series regarding my alien abduction experiences that I'm basically going through them one at a time. The newer ones aren't in it, but Michael Davis Alien Abduction Experiences on Google. And those are all on YouTube, so you'll get the links there.
Put them on. I want to put all these links on your page on Aquarian Radio. I've created aquarianradio.com, so I will do what I can to capture those links and put them on for our listeners.
If you see my Facebook profile there and you see Michael Davis, when you look up that stuff, and you'll see my picture in there. If you go to my Facebook profile, all of that stuff is also posted in my albums, photo albums, under certain albums titled as such in my Facebook profile, and they have links to all the videos, so you can sit there and bring that album up and watch a whole playlist of that video, bring up the other album, watch a whole playlist of that video. That's how it's set up in there, so people can go to there too and just go to those and post them from there, share them from there. They're set up to share, and they're supposed to be shared. That's what's supposed to be happening here. We're supposed to be sharing this information. That's what our duty is. My other brothers wouldn't care. They wouldn't do a thing. They wouldn't lift a finger to share anything unless they're making some money off of it. That's just the way it was. They wouldn't do it. There's no money in this. People say, people say people making money. There's no money in this. I spoke up, move on. I've never paid a dime. I've never been paid a dime. I'm not looking for a dime. I write a book. The only people that make any money off my book, literally, is Amazon, because they get it free when they order Amazon Prime. So Amazon's getting them. So there's no book sales. There's no money to be made off of it.
In other words, you have to speak out because you want to.
Yeah. I was forced to. That's what I wanted to say. Can I share something with you? Because this is really a significant point why I'm speaking out. After Terror Drive, when they took me off that side of the freeway, I went home after work. I never spoke of any of those events to my wife, because I got nothing but ridicule from literally her family, and everybody. I'm just being honest about it.
That's true.
I got ridicule for it, so I didn't speak of it. I kept it all to myself. Okay, that was back in 1983. So I figured if we split and ran, so we started moving. We moved into a.
We've moved a lot.
We moved a lot. We wound up moving into a fifth wheel trailer and had one after the other. Had different fifth wheels. We moved all over California, Oregon, Washington. We went down to Southern California, even Reno, Nevada, and we were all over the place. And the bottom line is, the reason I did that is I was running. I wanted to get away from. I didn't want to be part of this abduction thing anymore, and I wanted to get away from it. I didn't want the memories. I tried to erase it. It worked for a very long time until 2000. In 2000, from 1990, when my dad passed away, to 2000, is 10 years. I didn't have any contact whatsoever, really, from 83, because in the last Terror Drive, they told me they wanted me to spread this information. I said, how am I supposed to do that? They said, just do it. Figure out a way. You'll figure out a way, but using your mark in your forehead or whatever you need to do, right? So they said they were allowing me memories of that experience to do this. So I didn't do what they wanted me to do and bailed, and when they found me, they made it very evident they found me, because we were living in Garden Grove, California, and I figured I hadn't seen them in a long time. I was sitting outside. Back then I used to smoke cigarettes. I don't smoke now. I used to smoke cigarettes. It was, 10:30 at night. I'm sitting outside in our yard, and basically I'm just getting ready down to the end of my cigarette, and I look off to the west, coast-wise, and I see 7 glowing white spheres. And my guess is, only I could assume by studying in the Bible, the 7 spirits of God. Okay, that's the message I'm getting. These are the 7, and you know what the 7 spirits of God are: the knowledge, understand, wisdom, truth, and I'm not going to go into all that. But the bottom line is, these 7 white spheres, about 30 feet in diameter, come floating by my head. I yelled to my wife, Susie. I said, "Susie, get out here now!"
Yeah, I get out there, and there's these 7 white,
glowing
spheres or balls, and they were glowing, and they were big, and I saw them for like a couple minutes. Then they one at a time started shooting up straight into the sky.
What did they do when they hit the sky, Susie?
Well, they had turned into what resembles the Ursa Major.
Yeah, they turned into stars and formed the Ursa Major system, letting me know where they're from. And I get in. I go, oh no.
I looked at it as a message. Absolutely.
Okay, but she asked me. What she said to me. At the time she says to me, "What are they?" I said, "I know what they are." And she was, "What are they?" I said, "I don't know." I said, "I'm in trouble." And I ran back inside the house. She goes, "What's going on?" She says, "What do you mean you're in trouble?" She says,
Michael was acting pretty goofy at this point, so I wanted to know what was going on.
I was scared. I said, "They found me." She says, "Who found you?" I said, that's when I told her the whole ball of wax about everything that's gone on, everything that's happened, about being taken out of the car, all this stuff that's happened. I even went back over contact when I saw the aliens in the field, and she says, "What do they want you to do?" I said, "I'm supposed to be spreading this. I thought I could run away, and it didn't work." I said, they found me. I said, "They're going to keep doing this to me until I do what they want me to do." And she says, she says, "You know what you need to do." I said, "How? How do I do this?" She says, "Why don't you write?" She says, "You're good at writing." She says, "Why don't you write a little book and
I told him basically just to start writing everything down, no matter how significant or insignificant. Just start writing it down from his memory and seeing what he comes up with.
And then so I did. And then I said, "Now how do we get this out there?" And she says, "Well, here's the irony of this story, just so you know. I want you to hear this because there's an irony to this story. This was in 2001. I finished this little book. I said, "How are we going to get out there?" She says, "Well, we'll go to the Kinko's and we'll print them really small. And they were just really I got 4 pages per page because I needed to save money." And she says, "You could pass them out down at the pier in Huntington Beach on
I used to sell tie-dye T-shirts down on their Friday afternoon, evening farmers market, and I just told him, I said, "Well, we can just make these little pamphlets up, and I'll use them as stuffers when somebody buys the shirt."
So I started hanging out down there with her, and people started coming up to me. And one man, and they said they were really interested in the book and wanted to know. They come back and ask me, I should write more. I said, "No, I'm done." And anyway, one man comes up, and I'm there. It was a Friday, and I came down to hang out at the beach because it was a nice day. One man comes up, and he buys a bag full of T-shirts, and he's sitting there, and he puts that in the bag, and he goes, "What is this?" And I said, "It's just my story." He goes, "What's your story?" And I told him it's about alien abductions. I said what it really means, about the Bible and this, and I said and what they really are. And he goes, "Really?" And I go, "Yeah." And he goes, he says, "You know who I am?" I'm going to mention his name here because I don't think you'll really mind. I really don't think you'll mind. He says, "Do you know who I am?" And I go, "Nope, don't have a clue." He says, "I'm David Childress." He says, "I'm a writer." And I go,
"Oh, wow."
He goes, "I'm a writer." He goes, "He's a writer." He says, "This is weird that I run into you." He says, he says, "We're working." He says, "We're in the preliminaries right now of doing a show on that exact subject."
He had just gotten his advance.
He had just gotten advance.
Like his first advance.
He says, "That's why I'm buying the shirts." He says, "I'm just down there. I'm kind of celebrating." He says, "It's weird." He says, "I will read every bit of that book." He says, "Do you mind if I use this?" And I said, "Yeah, go for it. I said, use it. Get it out there, right?" And I discussed everything, the Egyptian kings and everything else in my little book, okay? I still have the book, okay? And he says, "If I have to blow this up to read it," he said, "I'll take it in." He said, "You mind if I recopy?" I said, "No." I said, "Do what you want with it." I said, "The only reason the copyright's there," I said, "I really didn't want it changed in the book." I said, "But go ahead on that one." I said, "Sure, go ahead and use it."
And, it was all right, man.
And then the ancient aliens there.
Michael even signed it.
Yeah, he said he says to me, "Can you sign it for me?" So I signed this book, and he takes off. Okay, well, anyway, my long story short, I'm sitting in the house that we were renting down in Huntington Beach, and Ancient Aliens are the premiering episodes. This is back in 2001 or whatever it was.
Or 2000, like maybe 2002, 2003.
Yeah, when they started airing them, and I said, "Oh my God, that's
I'm not quite sure."
I said, "That's all the stuff I've written about," and it's weird. So what I've written about has made its way a lot of places, and people don't even know what they're watching. And I still watch. I've actually bought every season of Ancient Aliens because as I look through every episode of that show, I see so much of my work that's gone into there, and it's good. I'm glad. I'm happy.
Little bits and pieces here and there.
Yeah,
it's really, really cool. It's a great show.
And I said in that book back in 2000, "We are them and they are us," and I'm hearing this all over the place. It's coming back to me. We are them and they are us, and it's just very interesting to see how it's spread that way. And so, like I said, that's what it was all about. Why me, not my brothers? Because this is what I do.
Mm-hmm.
I put videos out there. I send books out there free. I want the message out there. It's the truth. There's a false fabric over the society, and it needs to be broken. It needs to be torn through. And the people, and you're talking about the government. The problem is the government has done so much. I hate to say lying, but deceiving and evading the truth.
They haven't exactly been forthcoming.
That when it actually comes out, the biggest problem
they lied.
The biggest problem the public is it's going to destroy the whole political system, because that means our politicians have been lying to the public for eons, okay? They've never told the truth. They've never been honest about anything, and they're the ones that are going to have major egg in the face for telling people that we don't know of any other life. You know, Ronald Reagan made an address to the United Nations about us all coming together should we ever be facing a threat from other worlds, right? You know, I mean, so he did.
You know the speech.
I have a lot of respect for that man for doing that because he was in an era when.
Yeah, what would happen if we had a threat from the outside? And Ronnie Reagan was born on my birthday, February 6th, so we have a lot in common. I think he really, you know, he was in the inside. He knew. I know he knows because I talked to his whistleblower who reported to them every night at midnight from Area 51. So he was very involved with the extraterrestrials, and he was conflicted. He really wanted it to come out. And so because he came out and started saying that, he said it like 2 or 3 times, and they eventually Alzheimer'd him. They gave him Alzheimer's, so that shut him up.
That's exactly what happened.
Of course,
yes.
right?
Yes.
Of course.
That you had to, because if he was legit, well, hey, you know, what does that mean? The government's been lying to the people? Oh, they wouldn't do that. We all know that. There's no secrets there.
We trust them. Yes.
So,
so you actually knew the whistleblower, huh? That's pretty cool.
We only have a little bit less than a half hour, and we have so much to cover. And you were saying before we left that you were getting some kind of information or download when you were on board the ship about all this biblical stuff. I call it that, although I'm not sure exactly what you're saying.
Well,
if we could go revisit that, what was going on there?
Okay, I saw visuals when I was on it. When I appeared, what happened is I went and hid in the back of when they actually got my car out in the field. There was bright lights behind me, and all I hear is loud like winches and whine. It sounded like a tow truck actually, but it wasn't a tow truck, and it just was. My car went jerking down to the ground, and I rolled up my window. I see in my side view mirror, I see these beings walking up to the side of my car. I roll up my window, lock my door. They weren't human. They were weird. They had weird shaped heads and everything else. And I go to the floor and hide on the floor, and as that, the car gets really bright white, and I feel my body like lifting. Next thing you know, I'm in this white room. There's no lights, no. By the way, according to what I'm understanding, the light inside of there is a pure light. There's no fixtures. It's supposedly the light of Christ, and that's His presence. That's what I'm being told. Okay, that they don't need fixtures. But anyway, I'm inside of this little craft that I saw on the freeway, but the inside is huge. Okay, it's a big room. Okay, and I don't know how they're doing this, but the craft was small from the visuals from the outside, but it was big inside. It was pure white. Had one bench across the length. I woke up and naked on the floor there, and I at that point I wasn't mad or angered anymore. I wanted to know what's going on. And that's when I wanted to get down to the business on this. So I just sat there. I got up and sat at that bench. And I closed my eyes. It was very dead silent in there, not a sound. And then all of a sudden I felt a presence in front of me. And I opened my eyes, and there's 3 beings, 2 grays, and their skin, this time they were stark naked, had no reproductive parts. They had skin that looked like the underbelly of a dolphin. It was very shiny, translucent. There was the humanoid who had very pale skin. And I asked what happened to my clothes. The humanoid was tall, first of all, like I explained before, with the dark eyes and the no hair, very well built but slender. And I asked what happened to my clothes, and they said, you don't need clothes here, that we only wear clothes when we come to your world because it's customary there. And then they say to me, I said, why are you doing this? Why have you been taking me? What's going on? And I said they had many things to tell me, and that's when they first told me about my heritage, that I come from kings and queens, and that's a very strong background, and that we know that you're the right person to be doing what it is that we want you to do. And I said, what is it you want me to do? So they just started sharing visual after visual. I mean, and the craft disappears, and basically you're not seeing a screen or a television screen or a monitor, just so you know. What it is everything around you turns into the scene of what you're looking like. If you're in a rainforest and they're clear cutting, you're now part of it and hovering above it, okay? And you're looking down and watching it going on. If you're above an ocean and you see an oil spill, you're actually watching this whole oil spill, and it's not on a screen. You're in a helicopter, an invisible helicopter hovering over them, but it's silent, and you're watching this going on. You see a bad forest fire. Everything you start seeing, it's just one thing after the other. The famine, people dying from starvation. Then the wars, all the battles. You're in the middle of the battlefields. You're just all these different things, and that's when they explained that this world's it's turned into a bad place. It's not what they expected it to be, and that change will take place. But they want as many people to know the truth before that change does take place. That we were given a device, the device to make this world pristine, clear, to renew its. And that's supposed to happen biblically too. Everything renewed, to renew its back to a pristine, get rid of any pollutions or anything like that. Just renew it to a pristine state. And that device was the Ark of the Covenant, and that your kings of your world had misused it in battles to fight wars, to win wars, and it was never meant to be given that purpose. And for that reason, it was taken away. The monetary system was never meant and intended to be the way it is, that it's a system that only benefits few, and the few that it benefit don't really care to benefit anybody else, and it's creating a greed. And this is all the things you're seeing. You're seeing inside of vaults. You're seeing big, huge luxury cruises out in the ocean. You're seeing, this is what I'm seeing, okay, and big yachts out in the sea, and as these messages are coming to you. And I said, when then all of a sudden I start seeing all these, the jets in the sky, the fighter jets fighting, all of a sudden they vanish, all the troops in the field just vanish from the field. Everything starts vanishing. The oil derricks vanish from the ocean. Just all this stuff just starts vanishing from the scene. I think, what's going on? I said, this is all going to go away just like that. This world's going to be different. But people need to be given a chance to be part of the new world. So you need to spread this message out there. And I said, what message am I going to spread? The truth that you don't know, the truth that you're not even realizing. They said we sent a hybrid to you before to try to teach you a way. Well, he had different ideas for this planet, and he was supposed to be teaching it, and they put him to death. And well, he's not dead, but they put him to death. And they said they spit him back at us. And basically, I see actually witnessing the crucifixion of Christ in this craft, believe it or not. And I'm going, oh, my God. I'd never put it in my video because I thought it was too heavy, too much religion. And a lot of people don't want to hear about the religion when you try to spread extraterrestrial information. They don't understand that these beings that I are with,
it's all connected.
They're not all angels that, well, it goes back to the Bible. You got to judge them by their deeds. Are they producing good fruit? Are they a good tree or a bad tree? If they're producing bad fruit, they're not going to be doing good things. They'll help destroy the world. There's beings living among you right now that are doing bad things, that are humans, but they're extraterrestrial humans who are trying to make this place a bad place. They don't want it to be a nice place, and that's. Basically, it was a very heavy thing, and that's when they told me that I had a mark on my forehead to share with the world, and that I would figure out a way of spreading this. And that went on for about 40 minutes. It was a very quite a lengthy little thing. And the next thing I remember was reappearing in my car, fully clothed, and suddenly I saw the bright light behind me, and I felt my car lifting up out of the field, going back over to the shoulder of the road. Then it set down. And with that hovercraft comes by me. It's no bigger than a van. Seriously, really, the craft was really no bigger than a van. Comes beside me, hovering by. With that, I put my car. My car automatically goes into park, and it starts. And then I put my car into drive because it started on its own. Because the key was already on, the tape started playing in, and everything went back on. And I start chasing this thing up the freeway. And as I start chasing it, my coworker pulls in next to me, and we both start chasing up the freeway. When we get to our exit at work, like I said, it just shoots straight out in front of us and shoots straight into the sky and vanishes. And that was that incident that it was what they were doing is assigning a task to me, and it's been a very arduous task, and it's taken over my whole life. They're pleased. I know they're pleased because, like I said, when I went back to the barn It's like they were actually It was like a big party when that's what it was like.
It was like they were waiting for you.
I told her I was summoned. I said I had to be there, and when I show up there, they're there. It's like they're all waiting there where my darkroom was, where I used to spend my night getting away from my dad, sitting in that barn. They were They knew they knew I was returning. It was just incredible. And my grandson was with me, and he doesn't even live up here. He lives in Southern California. He's not in Sonoma County at all. He just so happened to be there that day, and they knew this was going to happen. And my wife makes alien dolls, oddly enough. And the strangest thing,
I do.
She made me one. It's about a 3-foot alien doll, really chill looking, all knitted in one piece, gray alien. And I had it sitting on top of a speaker. My grandson was 2 years old. He comes into our house, and the first thing he says out of his mouth, "I seen you," like that. Look at it. I said, "What? Have you seen this?" As I seen it, my daughter goes, "Oh, no, he hasn't, Dad. No, he hasn't." I said, "He said he's seen it." She goes, "No, he hasn't."
Well, I made him his own smaller size, about a foot tall alien a couple years ago, and I gave it to him.
Sleeps with him every
night. For his birthday, he still sleeps with him every night.
Takes him everywhere he goes. Yeah, and he's the one that was in the back of that car. And I told my daughter, I said, "You don't understand when you move the car trying to hide." I said, "You backed right into the spot where I saw one of my first orbs." I said, "That basketball orb." She goes, "No." I said, "Yeah."
Mm-hmm.
I said, "Yeah." I said, "You don't understand." No, he's a special boy, and I know the torch is being spread to him. The torch is going down to him, and I know this.
It almost seems like in some cases it skips a generation, from Michael to his grandson, not his son.
Well, there's an irony to this, like we talked about. Here's what the irony.
Weird.
Here's what one of the irony. Okay, my grandson is from my side, a lot of things. Okay, he's basically European. Okay, German, Jew, Russian, Austrian, Native American, French Canadian, Native American, and he's also Mexican from his dad's side. So he's half and half. And the weird thing is, Maximilian of Mexico was Franz Joseph's. What is he?
Franz Joseph's nephew?
Nephew or brother, or whatever it is.
One or the other. Yeah.
Was one of the rulers of Mexico, and they assassinated him. See, Benito Juarez. Benito Juarez assassinated him.
Killed him in the early 1900s.
And we had a neighbor who said we were talking to once, and she says, "Oh my God," she says, "You know who you look just like?" And I go, "No." She says, "You look just like Maximilian in Mexico." I said, "Well, that would be why." I said, "I'm related to him." I said, "He's like my whatever it was, my
like great
third cousin or second,
something like that."
That. And she says, "Oh my God," she says, "You need to go to Mexico and go to the culture center." She says, "Your picture is all over our walls down there." I said, "No." She says, "Yeah." She says, "You need to see it." She says, "We knew that Maximilian had children down in Nicaragua or whatever it was." She says, "But we've not been able to locate him." She says, "You're the first one we've run across." She says, "This is incredible." She said,
from that line.
From that line. She says, "You look just like him." She says, "I'm telling you." She said, "If you dressed up like him and had grew your beard like his and everything else," she says, "people would think that's who you are." She says, "People love him down there." You know what? They said he was the last of the ones where the true, were the old traditional Mexicans and Spanish people. He was one that before it got overrun by the
cartel.
By the cartel, it got taken over by the cartel.
Our neighbor was saying. I found it really interesting.
And she worked. I guess she worked for some dentist in Petaluma. And
yeah, I believe so.
And she says, "You know who would love to hear about this is Matt Damien." She says, "That's his what is it? I forget, some relation of the dentist." She says, "He would love to hear about this story." I said, "Well, tell him." She says, "I'm going to." But so this is where it's gone to. My grandson, and it's weird because they've chosen him because obviously he's my grandson and he's part from that line. He's taken the European side and mixed it with the Mexican side. So this is quite a bridge that he's covered there. It's a big gap. It's a big gap there, and it's good. It's a good thing. It's showing the total multicultural thing, and I'm sure there's other biracial people like that going on that are abductees. Yes. I'm sure. I have no doubts about it that they're being chosen just because they have so many different cultures in them, and the representation of the true human race, what it's really meant to be.
Mhm. Wow. Well, we only have, let's see, about 15 minutes left, a little bit less, and tell us some of, Karen, you want to have anything to say, but what I would like from the last 15 minutes is to something really profound and compelling that happened, and we'll have to have you back for even more. Karen, do you have any things that you'd like to go over in this last 15 minutes?
Yeah, I was appreciating what you almost like read my mind of what I wanted to ask was about, how you've integrated us in the family. I'm the first out of the closet contactee and whatnot, and I come from basically a very religious background of a particular kind, and then a number of people who left that particular religion as well as myself. So but I see, now that I know like the psychic history and some of the actual DNA, like you were talking about heritage history, it's like a lot of puzzle pieces have come together for me, personally. And I'm just wondering how over the years, first of all, Susie, you're kind of amazing. You background. Yeah, I mean,
I'm blushing here, guys.
Yes.
Oh yeah, it's not even crazy, but you stuck with them anyway. I think that's really
her growth is incredible. Her growth.
Yeah.
One of the most profound things I got to say, honestly.
Yeah.
There's two items that are the most profound thing. One is watching her growth from a non-believer to being where she is today, knowing they're real.
Yeah.
And, just seeing that growth. It just warms me. The other thing that I think is just very profound is my relationship grew from these beings as a child being petrified of them, terrified of them, and as a young man being resentful and hatred and really fighting it to where they told me he wasn't ready yet, get him back, go send him home, and basically to a point that I embraced them and I really I love them, and it's like I can't wait.
He really does.
I can't wait
it's
to
family,
be with
right?
them.
It feels, it's family. For me, it was
They're my
family when,
it was when I had a lot of lack of human contact. This was my contact, and it really got me to do some things. I know somebody is going to think of the next question I'm going to ask, and is, does Susie have her alien dolls on a website anywhere?
I'm still working on that, but I should.
Here's what's in the works for her. Here's what's in the works for Susie. Here's what's already in the works for Susie, and that's what she said she's working on it. I said what I really want to do is a show from your perspective. Now you've got all of my experiences. I said you have your perspective on it all, and a lot of people would really like to hear your perspective and your take of being with someone.
I'm still doing the writing for that.
So
good.
It's in the works.
Good.
That's breaking up a lot of couples, relationships where there's one is an experience. My past relationships were very overshadowed by this issue for me, and I'm now in a relationship where it's resolved, and
it's like that for a lot of folks.
Makes all the difference.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
I know many people who have lost their relationships over. Just so you know, when I was a child,
so sad.
I want you to know that as a child in that barn that I went back to, those beings are guardians. And I'll tell you one other thing, because my dad used to beat me for even speaking out about it. And finally, when my mom left him for a short period of time, we were alone out on that farm. It was a very scary incident. He brought me out to that barn, and he was going to kill me. He was strangling me, left black and blue marks around my neck, was putting me out, had ripped a cross earring I had out of my ear, just ripped it through the lobe, was punching me, kicking me across a stall. And when I was laying on the ground in that barn stall, and I know I was dying, he was coming after me another time. I was losing my breath, and I figured this is what it is when you're dying. All of a sudden, the cracks in the barn wall became very bright white light came filling the barn, and then millions of little white orbs began falling from the ceiling of the barn. And with that, my dad just freezes in his spot, and these orbs just go to gather on his body, and he's thrown 3 times across that stall. He's picked up and thrown 3 times. He finally, after the 3rd time, he says, "Run, Mike, run!" So I did. I ran to the house, hid in the back of the closet at the end of the hall, waited what seemed for hours, but it was probably about 20 minutes. I figured something happened to him out there, and finally I hear the front door opening, and I hear, "Mike!" I go, "Oh, I'm not coming out. He's going to kill me." He's, "Mike, come here. I'm sorry. I should never lay a hand on you. I'm sorry." And so he says, "Just come here." And so I come out there, and he says, "I'm so sorry." He said, "I should never lay a hand on you." He said, "I'll never do it again." And he never did. Just so you know, from that day forward, he never touched me.
He was a changed man.
He was
a
changed man.
Absolutely.
He had another son younger than me, 16 years difference from me. Never laid a hand on him, and he just got it. And I asked him, I said, "Dad, what happened on that barn?" He said, "I don't know." I said, "What happened?" I said, "Something happened on that barn." I said, "What happened?" He said, I don't know, Mike." On his deathbed, he was dying of cancer. the two things when the night right before he died, I said, "Dad, tell me now." I said, "What happened to you in that barn?" He says, "I can't explain it, Mike." Like that, he said, "I can't explain it." And with that, he died very short. A few days after that, he dies. And when he dies, we were living on a trailer in the property. We had our trailer down there helping out, and right at the moment he died, there was a purple flashing of light, the same flashing I saw, the same purple I saw from the triangle craft that was above me when I had missing time. Big, huge craft as wide as our property. And I guess I went down there, and my sister and my sister-in-law were spending the night down there with him to help him. And my sister-in-law she said that she just woke up and she heard, "I'm coming!" And that she ran down the hall, and he was dead. So
he was
that's
dead.
weird.
Well, some of the people that are here are, alien souls inhabiting these human avatars. And I know somebody that, remembers being basically a gray or a different alien. And so they probably just came and took him back. Yeah. So he said, "I'm coming." That's wonderful.
They are, and that's what they're doing.
Yeah.
They're spreading the word that way.
Yeah.
They want it out there. They're not.
Videos, by the way, where'd you learn how to make videos so well? Is that something you've studied, or?
Remember where did I spend my hours doing in that barn?
Oh yeah, you did photography.
I was the only kid in the world that was 12 years old developing color work himself.
Okay, and you did back in the early 70s. That was big.
That was incredible. Not many people knew how to do that. I was developing color work then, so I always had a niche for that, and it just went from that and it spread out to messing around with videos, and it's a hobby. It's something that keeps me occupied, and it's productive, and it's getting the message out there, and that's what I really want more than anything else is the message to get out there. Truly, I want people to know that there's something different than we're all seeing here. I want them to know that there's more than what we're being covered in, the blanket that we're being covered in. There's something more than that, and they need to understand that if somebody else isn't going to tell you the truth, you need to start seeking it and finding it, because I don't want to be anti-government. It's the last thing I want to be, because I don't want to live anywhere else other than the United States, to be honest. But I have issues with our politicians covering things up, and I don't like that. It bothers me a lot, and there's no reason for it. It's unnecessary.
We have issues with anybody covering up anything. I think most of the world's like that. They just want to know the truth.
I mean, I was called. It was so much cover-up when Susie heard about it, her dad, when I tried to talk to a lot of people about this, just so you know. I tried to broach this
my relations were probably the wrong people to talk to about it, but he did.
Her dad said, her dad said, "You're crazy, man. There's no other life. There's billions of other solar systems. How can you say that this is it?" I mean, that sounds crazy in itself. The rationality of the universal expanse, how grand it is and expansive it is. It's just, how could you even say this is it? It's like saying there's one grain of sand on the beach.
Great. Well, they're afraid. But what do you think about, we only have a couple minutes of the potential that what Hillary said, and I don't know if she'll actually follow through on this, but Hillary said that she was going to get behind Area 51 and not kind of whip out like Bill did when he
became president. Short.
But if she
Daily dollar short.
What do you think?
Why didn't she do that as a U.S. Senator?
Or the Secretary of State, or or the First Lady, or she's had plenty of opportunity
to do this, and she's known about it. I mean, why? In other words, why wait until you're elected? Why not?
Yes.
Hey, why didn't she do it? What she should do is do it right now before she is elected.
Initiative. Why was she not saying it? She's done this since the 90s. So
exactly.
What do you think? When you ask yourself why did she do it, what's the answer that you come up with?
Hold on a second. Hold on. I'm changing phones here. Hello?
Okay.
Now what was that question? What did you say?
I said there's a part of you that knows the answer to this. So when you ask
I want to answer. Repeat the question. I was cutting out on my other phone.
Okay, what you're saying, we said, why did Hillary not reveal this? Since she's known it since the Rockefeller Initiative in the 90s. She knew it. She was called over to that ranch. She was carrying the book around. When you ask the question, part of you knows the answer. What do you imagine is the reason why she didn't reveal
There's only one motivating factor for most people in politics, to be honest, and that's monetary. So That's your usually monetary and position.
Yeah, it is.
So do you think they're shifting that this is another way of doing our reality, our world is past this monetary system?
Well, here's what I can say about this. Okay, when I see shapeshifters and I know they're real, I've got to be honest about something. I know that there's aliens on this planet. I've got to think about it with Obama. I mean, we don't know where he really came from. We don't really know for sure if that's really his birth certificate. I mean, who knows who he could be? And we can say that about any president in the world, somebody running the country.
There's been questions, yes.
Yeah, there's been a lot of questions about this.
Of course.
It's nothing unpublic. That's been known. It's all over the Internet. The discrepancies about where his place of birth is, and he's the president of the United States. I mean, so there's a lot of loopholes there. Who knows what Hillary's real background is? All I know is the ones that are politically in charge, who are benefiting monetarily, aren't part of the same breed that I'm linked to. They are a different breed. They just are. I don't know how else to say it.
Well, the creator makes lots of things.
Something on that line.
But anyways,
we're running out of time, and we have you both back. This is fascinating. I had such a great time.
Me too.
We have like 1 minute. Go ahead. You guys say what you need to say about how people can reach you, and I'll contact you by email afterward to have you on back again. Go ahead.
Yeah, if you guys want to see my videos, once again, you can find them on YouTube. Just look up YouTube or Google Michael Davis YouTube Michael Davis Alien Abduction Talk, or Michael Davis Alien Abduction Experiences. If you'd like to read the book, it's Michael Davis Falling Sky. I'm also on Facebook too. You can follow or what have you, whatever you want to do. All that stuff's in my albums on Facebook too. But it was a lot of fun.
Wonderful.
And I hope everybody's learned something from what I've had to say. I hope they've gotten something out of this.
This has been an absolute blast, a real pleasure talking with everybody. And is there any way that we could get a copy of this when it's done?
It's up on aquarianradio.com and click on your
Crane Radio
to it. Aquarianradio.com.
Aquarianradio.com. Excellent.
Aquarian, like Aquarius. Aquarian Radio. All right. Aloha for now.
All right.
Blessings.
Thank you.
Thank you, Karen.
Good night,
Janet.
Michael.
Good night,
Karen.
Bye-bye.
Good night.
Bye-bye.
Have you heard? Metro by T-Mobile now includes Amazon Prime. Yes, enjoy the best of shopping and entertainment, movies, TV shows, music, free shipping, and much more. All included for just $40 per line for 3 lines. All on the T-Mobile network. Discover the smarter way. Metro by T-Mobile. That's genius. One offer per account. Offer subject to change. $12.99 per month value. Offer valid for new Amazon Prime members. Metro customers may notice reduced speeds versus some T-Mobile customers. Video at 480p. Capable device required. See store for details and terms and conditions.